If you're in your 50s and you've recently received or expect to receive an inheritance, you might be wondering, what should I actually do with this money? Since there's no inheritance tax here in Canada, all that money comes to you tax-free, which gives you lots of flexibility, but the decisions are completely up to you on what you should do with it. The challenge is you might still be working, you might have kids at home, you might have a mortgage, or maybe you're retired already. Let me walk you through a few real-life examples of how some of my clients have used an inheritance. This way you might get a sense of what might make sense for your situation. Let's start with the most interesting use case because it's one that most people haven't really considered before. This one has come up twice already this year for my clients, and so this is how it worked in both of those cases. I'm going to use fake numbers and a fake name for the example here, but the strategy was the same. So Nancy had received an inheritance and wanted to give $50,000 of that inheritance to causes that were important to her. But instead of just writing a check out of the money she received, we got a little bit creative. She already had some non-registered investments that had grown over time. So she originally had invested $100,000 and had now grown to $200,000. And so that's a $100,000 gain. So here's what we did. Instead of donating $50,000 of cash out of the inheritance that she received, she donated $50,000 worth of shares directly to the charities of her choice. Now, here's why that matters. When you make money, the tax man is coming for his share of that money at some point, and that's true with this non-registered investment. So theoretically, if she sold $50,000 worth of shares today, half of the $25,000 gain on that $50,000 would be taxable. So $12,500 would be taxable. And in the 33% tax bracket, that means that there would be a tax bill owing of about $4,125. But when you donate shares directly, you can eliminate the capital gains on those shares. The inclusion rate on those capital gains drops to 0, and you still get the full donation tax credit. So whether you give cash or shares, you still get the same tax credit, but donating the shares directly can eliminate thousands of dollars in capital gains tax that you would owe at some point in the future, either when you sell the investment or when you pass away. Again, the tax man is coming for his share. So if you go through this strategy, you'll want to file a CRA form T1170 to make sure everything is tracked correctly. This is something your accountant can take care of with the tax slips your broker will provide at the end of the year. Now, once this gift was sent in kind means that it's transferring it directly, not selling it and sending cash. So once it was sent in kind, we took that inheritance money that she had and we made a new investment with that. So when it was all said and done, she was able to give away a bunch of money, eliminated some capital gains tax, and have a similar, if not more money invested for the future. Now, in another example here, a different client received an unexpected inheritance from a long-lost family member. Wouldn't that be nice? It wasn't millions of dollars, but it was approaching 6 figures. The client didn't have any TFSA or RSP room left. The RSP room was limited due to their pension, and their TFSAs were fully maxed out already. So with no RSP or TFSA room, we invested that money in a non-registered account. Now, this type of account is often called a taxable account because when you earn interest or dividends in the account, you'll pay tax on it in that year. Capital gains taxes would be owing if you end up making money on it and selling it in the future. So here's what we did in their case. So every year when you get new TFSA room, we ended up getting a hold of them and we chatted about whether it made sense in this year or not. But typically we would sell money from that non-registered account and invest in the TFSA. Now, some years the investment had gains and some years we've had losses. And those losses we can use to offset gains in the future. This will be tracked on your tax records, but a good accountant will make sure that you're taking full advantage of that. Over time, the goal is to gradually transition that non-registered investment over to the TFSAs, maximizing growth and minimizing taxes over their long time horizon. But why this mattered is that in their case, it actually gave them a little bit of cash flow flexibility because they were contributing to their TFSAs on a regular basis. Instead of using their paychecks to top up their TFSAs, they used this money so they could spend a bit more of their income now without sacrificing their long-term plans. So to make sure that this happens, every January, our office reaches out to them to remind them to top up their TFSAs, and we handle the whole thing from there with just a couple of signatures. Now let's talk about an option that almost everyone I help with inheritance planning wants to talk about. It's paying off the mortgage. In this third real example, paying it off wasn't the optimal move on paper. It wasn't the most financially beneficial. The interest rate was low and their investments probably could have earned more, especially on their long time horizon. Of course, it's a little bit of apples to oranges because you're comparing variable investment returns with fixed costs of interest on a mortgage, But here's the thing. They were already on track for retirement with the money they had saved, plus the regular investments that they were adding personally and at work. And one of them was shifting to a job with variable income. Some months they'd have lots, some months they wouldn't have nearly as much, and some months they might not have any income at all. Since their mortgage was a fixed expense in a variable income world, wiping out that mortgage balance gave them huge peace of mind and the confidence to take that new job, which was actually part-time and much more flexible, so it worked way better for their family and their lifestyle. This is one of those situations where the best mathematical outcome wasn't the best personal outcome for their lifestyle and their family and what they wanted to prioritize. And at the end of the day, that's really what matters the most. With the mortgage gone, they took an extra vacation and finally got around to doing some renovations that they've been putting off. We ran the numbers for them so they knew that their future account balances would probably be a bit smaller as a result, but the trade-off for living fully today was totally worth it. This is the difference between always wanting more versus knowing how much is enough. So what should you do with an inheritance? There's no one-size-fits-all answer. It all depends on your goals, your tax situation, and what gives you peace of mind. But whether it's giving back, growing your wealth, or simplifying your life, there are smart ways to make an inheritance work for you. If you're not sure what makes the most sense in your situation, that's exactly what I help people with here at Cedar Point Wealth. If you're interested in planning for a confident retirement that looks at your life and your priorities instead of simply minutia on spreadsheets, check out my Cedar Point Pathway Retirement Planning Service over at cedarpointwealth.com. Thanks for watching, and if you found this helpful, consider subscribing for more practical Canadian-focused financial planning tips. Take care.